Hi, it's nice to be in Croatia. I have to say it's funny because 4 of our members of our family are sailing right there in 4 different boats. So there is a relationship, Barcelona and Croatia, Spain and Croatia, we share the Mediterranean, and we are into this kind of new relationship. The new office of the Mediterranean Agency of Europe is now based in Barcelona, and what Spain is saying is, you, Croatia, are in a good position now because you are the past of what Spain was before we kill our coast. And we are looking at you as a kind of a future for the tourism that is happening in Spain. So it's kind of funny, no? We need each other. What I want to do first, since Stanford was dropping papers here, I'm going to shoot some papers too, that I always do. Be careful with your heads, this is always messy. So it's about breaking. Peter Brook always says, there's no theater if there's no breathing stage audience, and there is an architecture if there is no dialogue, society. And today we were talking about how architecture can come from bottom up. So there was this architect, Iago Conde, who was making architecture out of throwing papers. We were 5 years throwing papers in the office, you know. What is this ecology? What is it? We might see it as a liquid. That's kind of a good generation today. But to me, what's key is what's the attitude inside this liquid? What do we do? And Francois before just before mentioned what's our role in this. I like the positive virus. He is a positive virus. The bad news is that this Truman Show exists. So this is the studio of Alisa, and this is the commercial Croatia here. This is the AA in London, and this is the Olympic Games in London. This is also Sylvia fighting in UCLA against the spread city of LA. And this is where we are, the hackers and the system. We need the system needs us. This is us in Barcelona, in this kind of marketing tourism city, which is Barcelona. And probably it's all of us, being here in this very unique hotel, but in the outside there is this. Yes? Do you see this? There is this. The funny story in Spain is that this is true. It's bad news. It's bad news. This is the Truman Show, which is real. So this is a city where the marketing is, this is your home, from the front, from the back, from the right, from the left. I believe the architect who has designed this is hidden in Croatia. I'm looking for this guy. I'm hunting this guy. Or in Switzerland. But please help me on that, all right? It's not the fault of the clients, because the same client has this Flintstone, Stone Age house and owns a fiberglass boat. The same client. These homes are 2 years old. They're not old. They're 2 years old. So this is where we are. We wanted very much to produce knowledge in this society. So as we were saying just before, that knowledge can come from bottom up, we believe that our generation will be remembered by how much knowledge, how much added value from the elite is driven down to this Truman Show reality. These are experiments on ice to produce villanures. This is how we call it. I have to be very quick. I will show you 3 projects today. These are movies of 2000, 2001, printing in stereolithography. This is the final prototyping, so it's about if anything can be built, what's your frame, what's your accident, what's the beauty of your accident, what's the landscape of events you want to target, you want to build, of course using parametric design, using the sustainable approach to wood. We have machines to help us to do these things quick, just do it, quick. And this is again 2002, that's the wood form, and we have this idea of clouds. It's Cloud9 office in Barcelona. Clouds is kind of a driving force. It is science, it's about 9 million particles of water, of cubic waters, floating, pretty amazing. And on the other side, there's this fiction, this indetermination. These are these drawings. The technology there is a ceramic skin, ETFE cushions, really light. This is a steel frame, the pool inside. So we have a summer house, a winter house, and we have this continuous, and we were talking about ecology as a continuous fluid, liquid space. That's the concrete work. Installations like veins are inside our body, inside the home. So this is how we keep tension. It's post-tension engineering structures, and it's kind of Batman house, dark over dark. It's very important, the idea of resolution. How we look at nature is how we look at complexity and how we look at resolution. That's 15 centimeters resolution. To fly, this idea of lightness, to fly 26 meters and to have 6 meters in the back, but to fly 26 in the front. This image is 2003. How to do an entrance to the door. What's the door? What's the gate? How is it? What is it? So it's reinforced concrete. It's really light. It has this hydraulic system just to move it. See here the fourth, 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth step. It's translucent concrete. We are applying a 5 millimeter of concrete, 5 millimeter of fiberglass, 5 concrete fiber. And behind that, we have these LEDs, panels with an IP address, with an Arduino platform to talk. Hello, we are not at home. Hello, what's your name? Who are you? There's this idea of fiction happening. But of course, it's about complexity, it's about lots of geometries and to apply this. But I want to refer this to, I think it's been said already today as a framework. Look guys, this is what we were doing in 1921. Each one had its own bike, design bike, dream bike, hybrid bike, mutant bike, the way you want it. Today, in this commercial world, we have around 15 kinds of bikes, and we all share this only 15. Million people are buying only 15, 20, 200 design bikes. So I'm very much thinking on this idea of distributed knowledge, distributed innovation. In the 40s, 2 women could lift a car. This was this aluminum moment. The aluminum arrived to the car industry and 2 women said, well, it's between you and me. Yeah, let's do it. Are we losing this? Are we losing this? The engineers didn't know what they were doing. Today they know too much what they're doing. They didn't know they were doing a plane or a train. What is it? But it was about speed. They knew it was about speed. So, the output, the performative, that's what counts. And we, as architects, and I think Patrick supports this idea of a scale, there was a moment where we were building factories to build zeppelins. Imagine the entrance to take away the zeppelin out of the factory. We could be doing today factories of buildings that they go away. So it's very much this archigram moment of the walking city that was 1935. So what are we losing? What are we losing? What is it? We are looking at this glass inside the pool, surrounded by, and we have artists. So one thing we do in the office is that when it's about beauty and its balance and its kind of control, and there was this discussion before about control, we do invite artists. They are messy, they have ego, they are messy, and they are messy. Yes? Yes. The Angewand discussion. So that was Vicky Colombet in New York working with particles. And these are our ETFE cushions. They close, they open, so it's performative. And this is our membranes. So we have to wrap villanures to protect against rain. So we are basically working with fashion factory to wrap it. Or this idea of glass. Glass is a liquid. Glass is, after the heat, is a liquid. So the more natural behavior of glass is to be this. What's really hard with glass is to get it flat, even, and transparent. So let's go back to the performance of nature, of materials. That's what it is. That was, again, a beauty moment. So we had to call for an artist again to build this tension. And this is Frederica Matt working with us on the ceramic skin. So it's about air breathing. It's black, facing south, so that's really hot. Gets a lot of energy, therefore ventilation, it's parametric, they're all the same, but all differently apply and build. And before that, before building, I'd like to share with you this experiment. If Villanurs is a digital made house, and I have a 3D of the house, I can project over itself, yes? The digital one is projected on top of itself. So I put a camera, XYZ location, I put a projector on site, XYX location, the same angle of projection, same angle of rendering. So I'm rendering itself and I'm projecting the render over itself. Yes? Everybody follows? Oh, not bad, at this time. Good. So this is one night just performing with the clients. Should I do a window here? Should we do a performance? Should we cut? What's the rhythm? What's the grid? So this idea of interaction that nature has. Again, this is the fabrication. They're all the same, all differently from 2D to 3D, all this ceramic. And the artist, that's Frederic performing, building nature, building landscapes on top of them. It's a skin ceramic, and if you look at our skin, it's not screw, it wraps our body. So there's no screws here, it wraps, it's using cables that wraps the body of our home. And that's this noise. When I said to him, do the project together, Frederic, he was, are you sure you want an artist to do the skin of your building, of your home? I said, yes, I'm sure. Because I was in Sao Paulo, and there's a relationship between Tomi Otake and Oscar Niemeyer doing the dome in Ibirapuera, in the park. The day of the opening, the friends of the artist move in, see the red carpet fully occupying the space of architecture, and the friends of Tomi, they say to her, the art wins. Bravo, you got it. But that night, the friends of Oscar were moving in at the opening and were saying to Oscar, you use art so well. Bravo. There's a win-win possibility, okay? Win-win possibility. This is it. So here we are, looking at the different technologies all together. This is the skin facing north. We would like very much the natural light to go in, and that's the Korean skin. This is 2004. So this is the Korean, it's 6 millimeters, it's translucent, it's 80% epoxy resin and 20% recycled marble. That's the cloud we are working on. It is a skin, it's fixed to these cables, to this floating. It breathes, It has this light transparency, this idea of lightness. It's Villanur's. The impact to the neighbors is strong, as you can see. The discussion with the neighbors is, half of them, they say it's landing. The other half, they say it's taking off. That's the big discussion. But seriously, two neighbors are starting demolition. So maybe the positive virus is starting to happen. Let me go to the second building, second project in Barcelona. Is the Media-ICT building. So what's the situation? What's reality? What's reality? We were looking at this in the conversation this morning. This building here is a steel building, looking like a steel building, looking like a steel structure. Is Ferrater from Barcelona. The building weighs 350 kilos to perform 150 kilos a square meter. It looks like a steel, but inside there is concrete. It's only 6 millimeters of steel, the inside is concrete. The one nearby is this postmodernism idea, so this architecture is concrete structure, and there is an aluminum plate on top of it, looking like. So it's the second language. Here is Chipperfield, David Chipperfield. He's working with reinforced concrete. It's a concrete skin, but he's not using the concrete as a structure. It's a 600 kilos per square meter building to support 150 kilos per square meter. So that's the architecture we are doing. 600 kilos, 800 kilos to perform 150. This is Jean Nouvel, Akbar Tower. This is concrete all the way here. From here is a steel structure, and the very top is fiberglass. Okay, the very top is fiberglass. That's what it is, and there's no lie or there's no language attached to it. This is the Media-ICT building, 150 kilos a square meter to perform 150 kilos. At least today, we, in terms of lightness, we can do this one-to-one. So how much your building weighs is going to be about sustainable development, it's about green, it's about global green growth, and it's going to be one of these questions. And it's not because of the Foster's movie, but it's very much the Bucky's thinking on lightness. There was this lightness in the past in these steel structures, all screw, all fine. That's what we are doing with engineers like Boma. We are hanging the building, and the building is now 60% less weight if it's steel and hang. Again, nature is about lightness. We're using these robots to lift the building up. So this is one of these TV moments on site. And this is the key guy. This guy runs 8 hydraulic engines, here they are, to lift the structure. So in one day, 3 floors up. That's the idea of distributed thinking versus centralized, distributed thinking. So we are against this. This is centralized. If this bar collapses, the building collapses. It's centralized. Centralized means lobby, means centralized thinking versus distributed thinking, distributed knowledge, distributed computing, distributed networks. What is a distributed field, distributed industry? These are the robots being used. These are the robots being used in Montbaga. In Catalonia, there is over 60 places of digital fabrication. Not many digital architects in Barcelona yet, but the industry is ready. So that's good news. The industry is ready to build complexity. And these are the flowers to address this complexity, and this is the distributed structure. Each bar has different thickness, 120 bars, 80 different thickness, 120 different flowers. And looking at jellyfish and biology, they are self-sufficient. It's not one animal, it's a system. Inside there's 6, 7, 8 animals, hearts, stomach, but they perform this idea of energy. The same way, as the building is hung from this floor, all the floors are supported at this point. Virilio has this, Paul Virilio, the French philosopher, has this idea that cathedrals, he goes to cathedrals and he hacks cathedrals because they are in tension. So he hacks these columns and he says, 2,000 tones performing in these columns, okay? So people go here and they also hack our tense structure and they say, yes, I feel it. Oh. No, Bruno. Be careful, it comes up. So it's a structure that goes up, that performs and acts every night. It gets charged with 6 hours and performs the last 8 hours. So, and this was before Avatar. Oh, important, okay? It's hung. It's a structure going up. To produce what? To produce this empty space for public events without columns. Children go inside this room through the glass door and they all say, something is missing. Kids, 8 years old, all of them, something is missing. And we architects, as an attitude, we are going to be able now, if we want, not rather to control these systems, but rather to direct these systems. Now these systems are becoming operas. Opera means total work, total piece of work. So, of course, now architecture has this situation where we have to deal with district cooling, photovoltaics on the roof, green gardens, micro wind turbines, nitrogen cloud on the skin, all this complexity and all this work together. We are the directors of that. This is the skin we are working with. 140 cushions with 140 IP address, 104 Arduino platforms that open and close this membrane one by one. It's been built in Bremen, and this is what the middle membrane is doing. It's closing the holes and performs. When it receives 500 watts heat a square meter, the cushion closes, all right? And that's one thing. On the other side, we are using a new pattern, which is nitrogen. Here I'll show you. The building gets hot. In Spain, we are now at 8.5 months period of summer, and the buildings consume 80% of the energy in air conditioning. So the building produces this cloud, which stops, and we are going from 0.10, which from 0.40 sun factor to 0.10, 4 times more efficient than the new code. These are the photos of this early July. And these are the IP addresses, the system that opens and closes. Again, 104 Arduino platforms. There you see how we like very much this idea of distributed intelligence on each cushion. And now I'm going to go to the third project, which is El Bulli Foundation. And let me show you a short video here of what El Bulli is. We're very happy to work with these guys. Basically, Ferran Adrià, he cooks with nitrogen. We do buildings with nitrogen, as you've seen. This is the foundation project we are working on now. It's about particles. So here we go. The place belongs to a natural park, natural resort. There we go. You hear anything? Well, this is the place. So it belongs to where the sea and the Pyrenees, they meet. It has fantastic water and resources, and we are working with them to get the marine turtles back, coral species, biodiversity, birds. One thing they do as cooks is what they call it creativity audit. I know these two words doesn't work together, right? Creativity, but an audit. And it's very successful because they want to do what innovation is, but at the same time, where is it? Where we are in terms of timing, plan, agenda, years, who has done it, who hasn't done it. So this idea of auditing your creativity, it's killing, it's driving them, it's very focused. So at the same time, we were in kind of these dialogues, these conversations, this communication that Patrick will talk about later. We are talking to them about, well, to make it really short, architecture is about having straight spaces, empty, kind of factories, kind of this idea of the Mies van der Rohe pavilion in Barcelona, where the volumes and the pavilion, the spaces break. This is what El Bulli is today in the coast, or Cadaqués, the village. So boxes kind of move in the topography. There was this smart moment in the Catalan architecture, Niemeyer as well, where the architecture was becoming topography, was becoming the line, was getting adapted. Or this issue now where architecture is nature, architecture is mountains, architecture is clouds, architecture is landscape. We're telling them to go into particles, where architecture is about particles. And this is a very funny photo, the two sitting together with this fantastic landscape. What's important is the technology that changes this nice postcard into this. So now we are about, that's the point clouds, and these are the particles in 3D. That's Ferran being mapped, and we can go all the way to particles, all right? So that has the resolution that turns this landscape into a 3D, a point cloud of 9 million dots in 3D. We have scanned the trees, the leaves, the humidity of the atmosphere, of the air around. Here you see the dots. This is our 3D. All right, so the Bulli has become kind of a knot of information. But what is it? Well, let's go in. And this is made out of maps of CO2, salinity, photosynthesis performance, geothermal energy, and humidity levels. So now what we are seeing in terms of sensors, we have 3D sensors on site, and this is the information, the data that we are collecting. The sea is on the right side, and that's the salinity levels coming. The CO2 maps of the roads coming from here, the energy that emerges from the geothermal, it's also embedded, that also goes down into the geothermal, and that's the direction of the sun, so that's the main photosynthesis, heat transfer, and also this idea of flying seeds as well. Architecture has to be there and has to produce and work on this level of particles. So a direct answer to this is basically to take this 3D map into a 3D pavilion, into a 3D space. All right? So from here we are going to, that's what he needs. He needs a pavilion to think, and that's how they think, that's how they work. So again, the performance of them linked to architecture. They work with papers, they work with hypotheses. It's 120 hypotheses, and they are mixing. Keep trying. No, he doesn't like this one. So this idea of map. So they want these 5 clusters of research. This acts like a sponge, like a marine sponge, moving air through the skin and performing and filtering, producing particles. That's the job. That's the first diagram. Again, they cook with nitrogen, and that's the kind of the food. If we are able, and that's very important, that we are able, that content and context is the same thing. If we are able that the place, the nature, the garden, the pavilions, and their food, everybody talks at these particles level, it will be successful. So the program they are asking is this archive, that's the master plan, that's the existing building here. This is a new archive building. It's not a museum, but an archive. This is the brainstorming space. It's where they meet every morning at 9:30, and they have this collective brainstorming. We were talking with Alisa. This is the thinking. It's more like the think tank pavilion. This is a water landscape, a mineral earth landscape, and the energy landscape. We are not touching much. We have done an energy audit, and we are retrofitting the existing building, but just with some painting, very carefully done. I go quick. That's the 4 clusters in terms of research. This is how it works. We are taking cool air from here. It puts the air here back up. That's the heating chimney. That's the air gets stuck and very hot, and it releases here. That's a kind of an air chimney up. And on the other hand, these are ETFE cushions with photovoltaics integrated, so that looking to south, they collect this energy. That's the wood temperature in terms of thermal isolation, and these are the spaces. One thing we want to do is this 3D map that flies over them. So here is where we are. I wanted to bring you this really fresh project. They think, but they have the landscape in front of them, they see the sea, but we wanted to give them this idea of a cloud, of a 3D, of a topography of the landscape. It's Cap de Creus in 3D with this translucent, so that natural light goes inside. They don't need artificial light, but they always have this idea in mind, the landscape presence on top of them. We are building this glass using particles of salt, so that the particles are embedded in the glass. And this is about Vankers and Paul Virilio, landscape of events. It's about coral. We want to build coral inside the sea, so we are doing a coral building that starts by concrete, but that emerges out of lichens and little nature, little landscapes that emerge because of the humidity levels around the skin. The pinky octopus, they are little robots by Technalia with silicon, and they sense energy levels and they talk to each other, and there's this network of thinking. This is the smart grid map. We are producing biomass, we are producing geothermal, wind turbines, reducing 40% the consumption, producing the 60% left, producing a zero emission site plan. These are the particles, but photovoltaic particles. They are embedded inside fiberglass. It's not a flat photovoltaic, but a spheric photovoltaic. Therefore, it's very efficient. At any angle of the sun, it performs fully. This is the microalgae. One thing we are doing is sensing. If we sense the particles in 3D, we are going back to sensors in the skin. This is a photovoltaic sensor, a salinity sensor, the flow inside the tree sensor, and the humidity levels sensor, which is the thickness of the tree. What we are doing is that normally energy of the building is controlled by some silly thermostat right there, nearby the entrance. Instead of using that, we are connecting two trees to our energy system. Okay? So the two trees produce the information we want to run the building, to run the architecture. And that's empathy. Again, we are doing some experiments on experience. That's the algae landscape, microalgae landscape. That's the microalgae. It's used for cooking, but also for hydrogen energy. These are the master plan of this experience. We are also having places where we see the coffee, the trees out of coffee. That's a place for suicide. That's for Francois. This one is the olive trees, and we have these olive 3D maps. So where you taste olives. These are pavilions. We are talking to Greg, Alice, a few of the people here. So it's about nesting, knowledge, building experience that produce knowledge towards empathy. It's not about sustainable design, but empathy. And that's the credits. And just to finish, we were talking about activism. This guy, Alan Lloyd, Sylvia, you may know him. He's the one that is shown in the movie, Who Killed the Electric Car? So this is the guilty guy who killed the electric car. Sometimes to be a positive virus means to be mixed with everybody and to be allowed to push architecture. One thing we are doing is workshops and pushing the boundaries that the big lobbies of nuclear are not building power plants, but are allowing us to build clean energy. This is one of the jobs that architects will be doing in the coming years, and we need for that a Greenpeace army to push these lobbies towards green energy. Thank you.